All right, so you want to do a deep dive on Sauvignon Blanc? I mean, who doesn't love a good Sauvignon Blanc, right? But we're going deeper than just like, oh, this is refreshing. We're going to get into it.
We are. It's a fascinating grape with a really rich history, and it's so much more than just a simple white wine.
Yeah, I feel like people hear Sauvignon Blanc and they think like, oh yeah, citrus, zingy, but it could be so much more than that.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much diversity depending on where it's grown, how it's made.
Okay, so before we go down all those rabbit holes, let's talk about those aromas because I feel like that's Sauvignon Blanc's like, hey, smell me. It's so aromatic.
It's true. It's one of the most aromatic white grapes out there.
So you get that citrus, right? You get lemon, lime. Sometimes I even get like a little pink grapefruit kind of vibe.
Yeah, definitely. And then, you've got those tropical fruits. It's not just citrus. You get passion fruit, guava, sometimes even a hint of mango.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then like rounding it out, you get that like grassy note. That's so Sauvignon Blanc, right?
Yeah. Totally. That herbaceous character is really distinctive. Some people describe it as like freshly cut grass or even like green bell pepper. It's what makes Sauvignon Blanc so recognizable.
Okay, so we've established that Sauvignon Blanc smells amazing. But where did this all begin? Give me the historical lowdown.
So to really understand Sauvignon Blanc, you got to go back to its roots. We're talking about the Loire Valley in France.
Ah, the Loire Valley, home of like fairy tale castles and amazing wine.
Exactly. And centuries ago, this is where Sauvignon Blanc was growing wild, like literally wild vines clinging to the hillsides.
Wild. So this grape that's now found in vineyards all over the world started out in the wild.
Pretty much. And get this, it almost went extinct in the 1800s.
Are you serious? That's wild. We almost lost Sauvignon Blanc forever.
It's true, but luckily it survived and now it's more popular than ever. Talk about a comeback story.
That's incredible. Okay, so from those wild vines in the Loire Valley, it's now like a global superstar.
A global superstar is right. You find Sauvignon Blanc everywhere these days. New Zealand, Chile, South Africa.
Yeah. And they all taste different, which blows my mind. Like, how can a Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand taste so different from one made in France?
It's the magic of terroir. You hear that word a lot in the wine world, but it really is about how the climate, the soil, even the way they grow the grapes impacts the flavor of the wine.
Okay, break it down for me. What does terroir taste like in a Sauvignon Blanc? Let's take the Loire Valley, for example, since that's where it all began.
So picture the Loire Valley, rolling hills, cool breezes coming off the Atlantic Ocean, limestone-rich soil.
Sounds idyllic.
It is.
Yeah.
And all of that translates into these really elegant wines. You get those classic herbal notes, that kind of flinty minerality, a crisp acidity.
It's like you can taste the place.
Exactly. Now, on the other side of the world, you've got New Zealand.
Okay, New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, that's a whole other animal, right?
Right. Marlborough, especially. That's where you
Yeah.
find those really intense Sauvignon Blanc.
Those are the ones that are like bursting with passion fruit.
Right. Exactly. They have this incredible intensity. You get passion fruit, guava, that really vibrant acidity, and that kind of grassy, herbaceous character.
It's so interesting how different they are. And then you've got Chile, South Africa. They're both making some pretty amazing Sauvignon Blancs these days too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Chile is doing some really interesting things with Sauvignon Blanc, especially in their coastal regions. They're getting those really bright, citrusy notes.
Yeah, and Chile is always a great value too.
Absolutely. And then you've got South Africa, which is kind of like a mix of both worlds. You get a little bit of that New Zealand intensity with the tropical fruit, but also some of that Loire Valley elegance.
This is making me realize that I need to go on a Sauvignon Blanc world tour. But hold on a second. I thought Sauvignon Blanc was all about those like bone-dry, citrusy styles. What about sweet Sauvignon Blanc? Does that even exist?
It does exist. It's not as common, but it's definitely out there.
Sweet Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh!
Okay, you're going to have to elaborate on that because I'm having a hard time picturing it. Where do I even find a bottle of sweet Sauvignon Blanc?
Well, if you're looking for sweet Sauvignon Blanc, your best bet is to head to Bordeaux.
Bordeaux. Wait, I thought Bordeaux was all about those like big tannic reds and those age-worthy white blends.
They're definitely known for their reds and dry whites, but Bordeaux has a sweeter side too.
Okay, so what does sweet Sauvignon Blanc from Bordeaux even taste like? Is it like dessert wine sweet?
It can be. You get those classic Sauvignon Blanc flavors, the citrus, the herbs, but then there's this beautiful sweetness that comes through. Think like honeyed notes, maybe a touch of candied ginger. Really delicious, especially with spicy food.
Okay, you've officially piqued my interest. Sweet Bordeaux Sauvignon Blanc is going on my list. But what about sparkling Sauvignon Blanc? Is that even a thing?
Oh, it's definitely a thing. For sparkling Sauvignon Blanc, you'll want to look to the Loire Valley.
Loire Valley does it again. So are we talking like fully sparkling champagne-style bubbles?
Exactly. They use the traditional method, the same way champagne is made, but with Sauvignon Blanc grapes.
Wow, so you get those like yeasty, toasty notes from the traditional method, but then with those classic Sauvignon Blanc aromas.
Exactly. It's really delicious. You get the citrus, the floral notes, that crisp acidity. It's a really fun way to experience Sauvignon Blanc.
I'm learning that Sauvignon Blanc is way more versatile than I ever thought. But all this talk about the different styles and flavors is making me hungry. Let's talk food pairings.
Oh, Sauvignon Blanc is a dream when it comes to food pairings. That bright acidity can handle so many different flavors.
So give me the rundown. What are we pairing with Sauvignon Blanc?
Well, first and foremost, you can never go wrong with Sauvignon Blanc and seafood. It's a classic pairing for a reason.
Oh yeah, like a crisp Sauvignon Blanc with oysters.
Perfection. Especially those Loire Valley Sauvignon Blanc with their minerality and those herbaceous notes. They're amazing with oysters, mussels, grilled fish.
Now I'm officially craving a seafood platter by the ocean.
What about those bigger style Sauvignon Blancs, like from New Zealand? Those are a little bit more intense, right?
Yeah, those New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs can handle a little more spice. They're great with Thai food, Vietnamese food, anything with a little bit of heat.
I could see that. That passion fruit would go really well with those kind of flavors.
Exactly. And don't forget about salads. Sauvignon Blanc is fantastic with salads, especially if they have goat cheese.
Goat cheese? Oh my gosh, yes. That tangy goat cheese with the zippy Sauvignon Blanc.
It's a match made in heaven. And don't be afraid to grill your goat cheese either. That little bit of char adds another dimension of flavor.
This is making my Sauvignon Blanc shopping list very long. But, we've talked a lot about where Sauvignon Blanc is grown, the different styles, the food pairings. But what about how it's made? Does that play a role in how the wine ultimately tastes?
Oh, absolutely. The winemaking techniques can make a huge difference in the final style of the Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay, so take me into the winery. We've talked about the vineyard, the terroir, but what's happening in the cellar that's impacting how my Sauvignon Blanc tastes?
So much can happen in the winery. That's where the winemaker really gets to put their own stamp on the Sauvignon Blanc.
Give me some examples. What kind of decisions are they making that impact the final flavor?
Well, one of the first decisions a winemaker has to make is how to ferment the Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh, right. Fermentation. That's where the magic happens, turning grape juice into wine.
Exactly. And there are a lot of different ways to do it. With Sauvignon Blanc, a lot of winemakers like to use stainless steel tanks for fermentation.
Stainless steel.
Oh.
So that's like those big shiny tanks you see in pictures of wineries.
Yeah. And stainless steel is great for preserving those really fresh, vibrant fruit aromas and flavors that Sauvignon Blanc is known for.
So that's how you keep those citrus and passion fruit notes so bright and zingy.
Exactly. But then you have some winemakers who like to ferment their Sauvignon Blanc in oak barrels.
Oak. Now, does that give the Sauvignon Blanc like those oaky vanilla flavors that you get with Chardonnay sometimes?
It can. It depends on the type of oak and how long the wine is aged in it. But oak can add those really nice, toasty, vanilla, even spicy notes to Sauvignon Blanc.
So it adds like a whole other layer of flavor.
Exactly. And it can also give the wine a rounder, fuller body.
Okay, that's fascinating. So stainless steel for that really crisp, fruit-forward style, oak for something a little richer, a little more complex. What other tricks do these winemakers have up their sleeves?
Well, another thing that can impact the style of Sauvignon Blanc is malolactic fermentation.
Malolactic fermentation. Okay, that sounds a little intimidating. Break that down for me.
I know it's a mouthful. Basically, it's a process that softens the acidity in the wine.
Oh, so it makes the Sauvignon Blanc less tart.
Exactly. It converts malic acid, which is a sharper kind of acidity, into lactic acid, which is softer and creamier, like what you find in milk.
Oh, I see. So it rounds out those sharper edges.
Exactly. Now, it's not as common with Sauvignon Blanc as it is with, say, Chardonnay, but some winemakers will use it to just kind of take a little bit of that edge off the acidity.
Okay, so you've got the fermentation in stainless steel or oak. You've got the malolactic fermentation. Anything else that's impacting the style of Sauvignon Blanc?
Well, another technique some winemakers use is called lees aging.
Lees aging. What is lees?
Lees are basically the dead yeast cells that are left over after fermentation.
Okay.
And it might sound a little strange, but aging the wine on the lees can actually add a lot of complexity and texture.
Really?
Yeah.
Sounds kind of counterintuitive, like you want to get all those dead yeast cells out of the wine.
You'd think so, but it can give the wine this really beautiful, creamy texture and add some interesting flavors, too. You might get some nutty notes, some bready notes. It just adds another layer of complexity.
Wow. Sauvignon Blanc is like way more complex than I ever gave it credit for.
No, it definitely is. It's not just a one-note grape.
Yeah.
And then you have blends.
Right. We talked about Bordeaux blending Sauvignon Blanc with Semillon.
Exactly. And you see that in other regions, too. Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon is a classic blend, but you also see it blended with Chardonnay, Pinot Blanc, even Viognier sometimes.
Wow. So there's like a whole world of Sauvignon Blanc blends out there.
There really is. And each blend is going to have its own unique personality depending on the grapes that are used.
This has been a serious crash course in Sauvignon Blanc. I feel like I've just scratched the surface, though. Where do I even go from here? There are so many different styles, so many different producers.
The best thing you can do is just start exploring. Don't be afraid to try new things. Look for producers from different regions, experiment with different styles.
Yeah. It's like we have our favorite bands, our favorite authors. We can have our favorite Sauvignon Blanc producers too, right?
Exactly. You'll find the ones whose style really resonates with you.
This has been amazing. I feel like I've unlocked a whole new level of appreciation for Sauvignon Blanc.
That's what we like to hear. Cheers to that.
Cheers. And cheers to all of you out there for joining us on this Sauvignon Blanc adventure. Now, go forth and discover your new favorite sip.